the high poly stage is as essentially a stage where we have as much high detail as we can possibly get, because this is not, as we mentioned earlier, this would not work if I just take all of this here. This contains all the data I would need to bake down to get a proper look inside of the game. And this would not run in the game. Like, how many triangles do we have?
Only 570,000.
575,616 polygons. Like, people who have lower end computers, they would burn me at the stake if I tried putting this into the game. We're going to be working a little bit in Maya today, and I'm going to be showing how we go through the process for creating an asset. So this is going to be a little bit of a 3D 101 for anyone who might be curious, or anyone who's ever thought about maybe modding or anything. Then this will be a little bit of an introduction of the steps. We go all the way from doing the research, that's on us artists. Sometimes we also ask for help from our content designers and the general team, anyone who might have knowledge about an asset that we want to create. After that, we look at pictures and try to find as many sources as we can. So something I always liked with these kind of designs is like this, more rather than the classical Western, almost pirate-looking chest, it's more of a leaning design. It's simpler, but it's very functional. So first steps is essentially looking up references like this. Then, of course, I'm not going to go into each and every link here now, but just verifying what is the actual source of this. Is this a trustworthy one? Sometimes we might have the task of creating an asset that there is no clear reference for it. It might be a culture that didn't do this thing, or it might be that there just isn't anything. And then we go through some additional steps. Either we're trying to look at a bit of adjacency. Is there anything in a similar culture or something just right next to it that might have some references? If there's nothing there, then we try to... Then we enter like a phase of either we try to concept something on our own and we try to keep it plausible. So something that could have existed. I picked a couple of these that I decided to base it on. And jumping back to Maya, I've gone ahead and done like some cooking shows, and I've pre-cooked some parts here just to kind of show that off. So first step is here, for example. So this here is just a general shape that I model out here, and that it captures the silhouette that I'm after. Like this is the chest that I want to make. And once I have that, I start splitting it up, because the first step of any model is that we need some kind of a base mesh. Just this is where we fix the silhouette, where we fix what pieces it's supposed to be built from. And as you can see here, this is multiple pieces. So if I press smooth preview, that will essentially, it subdivides the entire mesh, and it allows me to kind of see how it would look in a more high poly state. And like, yeah, these are the pieces. And from this stage onwards, I look at references and see, is there anything more I want to take into account? So I think it's best represented by just jumping over to the next stage here. Now this one is quite a bit further, but from that base, this is where I've taken it further, because we want it to be more visually interesting. A mesh that's just a box that leans a little bit isn't very interesting, so something we're looking for is like breaking up straight lines. I've added some of these hinges you can see over here on the back. We have these details here on the side that jut out a little bit. This is an asset that is going to be pretty straight just by its very design, but yeah, that doesn't mean we can't try to break it up a little bit. So this is a base mesh that has essentially gone so far that I would actually call it a high poly, since, as you can see here, if I select these, you can see that it's much softer than it's actually smoothing this since it's a subversion. I can turn off the smooth preview. You can see like this is the little geometry that it's actually relying on. But once I have one of these smooth previews, then I can... Oh yeah! I don't have all my shortcuts.
Of course you don't.
Borrowing Joacim's setup here today, so I'll actually have to do this a little bit manually. Let's see here, that's under Modify and Converge. Smooth mesh preview to polygons. And you can see here, it generates a way, way, way higher density flow, but it's something that I can use in other programs because other programs can't read the subdivisions that Maya just previews. So I just undo that for this one. Yeah, the high poly stage is as essentially a stage where we have as much high detail as we can possibly get, because this is not, as we mentioned earlier, this would not work if I just take all of this here. I'll just duplicate it, then combine it into one, and if I then do this smooth preview again here, conversion there, yeah, here we go. Now this contains all the data I would need to bake down to get a proper look inside of the game, and yeah, this would not run in the game. Like, how many triangles do we have?
Only 570,000.
575,616 polygons. Like,
yeah.
People who have lower-end computers, they would burn me at the stake if I tried putting this into the game.
Yeah.
We cannot use this in the game. But that is what the next stage is for. This is the low poly stage. And as its name kind of implies, this is lower polygons. Try that again, take this one. So it's essentially, we're trying to find all of these points. You can see this, I've essentially isolated all of the important points along the shape and created a new mesh from that. And the important thing is that when I have this in smooth preview mode, you can see here it actually curves more. It doesn't get that jagged top here. And that is something that I have to account for in the low poly. So the low poly can't be exactly like the unpreviewed version. So there is some time we have to spend there to adapt this. So this is the first stage, essentially. And what I would do is see if I can get this easily enough. Yeah, so for example here, this is an area where we might have to add some bevels and adjust how. There. And now that is more true to the contours of the chest. And the next stage here, you can see I've taken it a little bit further. I've taken all of the indents and such into account. And but as we do remember from the high poly here, there was a lot of other floating details, and those also need to be accounted for. So that's why I have some more floating here. These are the floating bits like this. If something is flat enough, then we can, as I will show later, that's something we can rely on the normal map for. We don't need to actually, if it doesn't affect the silhouette, it doesn't need to be in the mesh. But these things do actually stick out a bit, so then justifiably it can be part of it.
Do you want to go through quickly how you made the low poly for the handles of the floating bits?
Sure. I can slow down a bit and do that. So the low poly for these, or
yeah,
exactly. Or for the handles, or
no, for the hinges on top.
For the hinges, yeah. So again, if I go back to the base mesh here, I think we'll start there. So in some cases it's pretty simple. Sometimes it takes a bit more, but if I turn off the preview here, for example, you can see that I have all this geometry, but you can see here I have these lines that are on the inside that doesn't affect the silhouette. They are essentially just controlling the smoothness here. So I can actually show what happens if I remove some of these. I go into edge and I remove a supporting line here and here. Oh, and I have to also remove their vertices, which are the points. Then it starts interpolating more along this angle here. So the more of these I remove, then you can see how the shape changes. It's still trying to smooth it, but you can see here, yeah. So it's essentially how much data was. So me taking this to a low poly, I removed all of these excess supporting lines, and then I just tried to optimize it to the least amount of poly count that made sense. So I can show here. No wait, that's a high poly. Here we go. So here, you can see here, for example, I've really taken it down a notch, so there's a lot less supporting lines on the sides. And here I've gone so far as to enclose this space here, since there's no need for it to be interpolating or be floating geometry, floating into itself here.
Yeah.
Because having floating geometry, it's nice, but if it's part of the same mesh, then you can get a lot of baking errors.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is essentially for the next step when we're creating all of the maps for this.
Yeah. Start getting tiny artifacts that you have to manually paint away.
Yeah, and they can be a pain.
Yeah.
So preferably being smart about this and UV mapping. That's actually something I should mention as well. UV mapping is a stage in this process where we have to take these. For some reason, it lets me rotate while holding the Windows button. It should be the Alt button.
That's wild.
Yeah, but now if I select the entire thing, so the UV mapping, if you ever worked with papier-mâché, imagine covering this whole thing in papier-mâché, cutting it out, and then just laying it flat, so every surface is laid out flat. And within this square here, these surfaces is essentially what I can paint a texture on. And yeah, so with this laid out and the defined for all of the UVs, actually notice now there I've actually made a boo-boo.
Uh-oh.
I've forgotten to fix this part.
In front of everyone too.
Oh yeah.
Ay, ay, ay.
That will be noticeable later, or maybe not. But here, for example, I needed to unfold these, and then it kind of like looks at geometry, and then it corrects the shape according to that. And yeah, all of this is like scaled to. All of this has to fit in within a 0 to 1 square, but everything is like relative size to each other. Once we've made sure that all of this is in place and it's clean and everything's positioned in a good way, I could probably have optimized this a bit more, or I could have given some stuff additional space. I've tiled a lot of these details, for example, on top of each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's if you have space over on a UV map, you might as well utilize it. It's gonna cost the texture space anyway.
What kind of details or surface details would you be adding in ZBrush?
Well, like I said, it would be like adding surface dents or breaking things up or notching a corner or something like that.
Yeah, like tiny surface details that you would find on like a keyboard or whatever.
Exactly.
They're not perfectly smooth or sharp. You're gonna have like tiny bumps.
But in this case, we won't be doing that.
No.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do we add the details in ZBrush to bake them, or?
That's a leading question. Yes, we
do.
do.
Will it be part of the low poly, or we just bake the normal map?
So when we have a high poly, whether we've made it in Maya, or I saw the question come there also from Ixum the Naughty, does the ZBrush just add a lot of polygons? Like, the high poly can be whatever. It can be like a trillion, well, maybe not a trillion.
Not a trillion, not yet.
As many polygons as your computer can handle.
Yeah.
Then essentially what it does, I will start up Marmoset here and I will show.
Yeah, we can do Marmoset.
This one is my preset scene, which I've already set up. And I've already baked this, but I will hide this for now and just import things again to kind of show. Here we have the high poly, all of the details open. So here we have all of the details that you can see from this. If I turn on the wireframe and actually make it visible and make it thicker so we can see it, there we go. You can see this is a lot of data that we have here. Just grouping these, and then I will add these, which is the low poly ones, and I will put those into a group so they're easier to hide and show. So you can see here, like this is the difference that we're going to be going for. And in ZBrush, I could add dents that add a ton of these polygons, that creates cracks, that changes the shape and everything. If I change the shape too much, I of course need to adapt the low poly to take that into account. If I create a scar that bevels across it, then I need to add that roughly in the low poly as well. So if I go here to the low poly for the chest, you can see here that it adds an outline there, and it's essentially counting from the low poly and outwards, and anything that's caught within this field will be baked into texture data. And yes, we will cheat a little bit. Like, this is just to get the macro details. That's what we're after. Because once we get on further, then I will add some more finer details. But yeah, in this stage, we bake. And once we do that, I get a series of texture maps, which I think I can preview here. Yeah. So here, for example, out of this bake, I get a normal map. And I get an occlusion map. As you can see here, can I actually... I can enlarge this one.
What is a normal map?
So a normal map is a map that consists of the red, green, and blue channel. If you know from art and working with textures and files, it's essentially different. It gives you coordinates for an angle of where it's pointing. So when you add that to a surface, that means that this here, normal map here, it knows that this surface, which is flat on the model, is actually pointing in that direction, and then it does it per pixel. And that's why a low poly chest here, like this one, can have all of these details here. So if I add another light source here now from the side, which it takes into the calculation, and I make it really strong, you can see it adds more of a red highlight. Even though this surface here is flat, it adds the highlight along this edge, thanks to the normal map. I have been a little bit sneaky and done a head starting considering the time. It's probably good I did. But yeah, I can actually start a new scene just to kind of show the process here. It's like this. You can recognize it looks just like it did in Marmoset, pretty much. Yeah, so from this stage, we want to texture this. And I want to get all the micro details in. I want to get textures in. I want to really make this chest look like a wooden chest from the north. And in those stages, I'll start off by loading in the actual textures that we got from Marmoset. You can see here in the texture settings on the right. You can see here that here on the right, you can see I've input all of these maps. So when they're input there, or I have to do it like that. When I input there, then they are part of the calculations for all of the materials in Substance Painter. And this really speeds up the workflow rather than having to do this manually with a lot of layers in Photoshop. And I would know, I have done it a few times.
Yes, boomer spotted.
Yeah. So a correction from earlier, I said I'd been on CK3 since release, and that's, yeah, for the project. I've been on Paradox for like 7 years, so I think the first project I was on, like Hearts of Iron 3, when I was an intern. So it's been a while and a few custom textures. But yeah, this speeds it up. So if I go here now, and we have a material list here, I'll just get a... Let's see, what wood materials do we have? Do we have some smart wood materials? We have... Oh, wooden ship hull Nordic.
Oh, wow.
That would...
It's very convenient.
That's very convenient. That should very well fit for Nordic wood for our Nordic chest.
Yes.
I pull that, and I apply it. Bam! First stage. This is like majority of the process, but yeah, we want this to look good as well. So next stage is, of course, that we have all of these hinges and everything. Then that should be some kind of iron or steel, perhaps. So we'll start off with iron. We have iron forged old. Okay, that applies to everything. But one of the maps that we get from the bake is the ID map from Marmoset. Also, if anyone's curious, we're using 16-bit normal world space ID, ambient occlusion, curvature, position, thickness. I can't explain all of them. They're kind of like data maps you get out. Curvature tries to find edges, is like the best one. And ambient occlusion tries to find shadows. Position, it's a rainbow, it's just data. thickness. Yeah, it tries to measure thickness of things. So yeah, back here, and I will add a black mask. Black mask means that when it's all black, then it's not rendering anything of this new iron layer. But I will tell it that I want a color selection, because when I do that, then I can pick a color, and you can see here, this is where I designated where different materials are already in Marmoset. I said this is iron, and this is wood. And then I can just click on this red area, and it applies this new iron texture to that. But I noticed that, oh, here it didn't. I have to add another, because that one turned blue. And there we go. I would say that's 80% of the work done. Mm-hmm. After this is the stage where we're like, okay, but this is where we add polish or any details that we want to add to it. See here, question from Niem. Do you separate handles as separate? Okay, I'm just going to jump back to Marmoset for this one, because this is why I love Marmoset. That is, you can see here on the left, if I collapse these, you create a so-called bake group, and within this group I have 3 groups. You can see when I click these that I'll just keep jumping between these. You can see an outline kind of appearing around the chest. So if I turn these off, this and this and this is baked separately, so they don't intrude on each other's bakes. So I export everything as bits, as a group of bits. So I have the chest, and then details group 1 and 2, and they don't interfere with each other's bakes this way. And yes, you can draw in substance, which is the next thing I can do here. Let's see here. If I go over to a paint layer, I create a paint layer, and that's incorrect. There we go. So yeah, here's a preset for painting nails. So if I increase the spacing and I increase the size, then I can draw here on this 2D area, and I can add nails like that, for example. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of other paints. There's regular paint brushes and layer effects and such. And if I have, Windows button, always in the way. I can also do things like import some resources. And I prepared for example.
Don't enter any secret folders now.
No.
You don't want to leak future games.
I don't want to leak anything. I'll open these two, set these as textures. So this is a pre-made texture I fixed up from some source material, and with that I can go back to assets, and I can add here, for example, a pattern. Which in this case is a Norse snake, and then just fix this correct scale. Not said there, like that. And if I've already, like in this case, I have a prepared material for this, then I can turn on normal map and import the normal for this as well. And you can see now I have a normal map even for this, or I can adjust the height layer for it. And okay, that didn't quite work as it. Yeah, we can work with these textures to kind of add effects, add normal indents, and you can see that this texture in itself also provides a normal map, for example, and stuff like that. But yeah, this is a very rough path through. I think I started to invade your time, so I should probably...
Yeah, no, it's fine.
How much time do we have, actually? Just so...
I think we have 17 minutes left.
Yeah.
We can maybe speedrun character art as much as possible.
Yeah. I'll probably wrap here, and then so you get to take over now. Then.
Yeah, sure. That's fine.
But yeah, essentially after this stage, we would export the textures. We would pull them into the engine. We can just pull them into the engine as PNGs, and it will start an import process window. And we just say that, this folder is where the mesh we exported is, and then we just tie them together, essentially.
Hi, hello, everyone. We'll be looking at some character art stuff now, and we'll be looking at the brief outline of how to make wait, maybe I should have given him pants. Looks a little bit funny right now. Of how creating one of these assets, animated assets, happens, I guess, for CK3. So the first process is that we would probably get a picture similar to what Ahmed drew in the beginning of the stream. So these screenshots are taken directly from the working board that we had, or the Miro board. So this is something that you could probably expect to receive if you would be a character artist here at Paradox. You would get a picture here, which is the rough concept alongside with some colors for our dynamic masks, and then we might get some.
I think it's important to mention the colors do actually correspond to the dynamic masks.
Yes,
right?
yes, they do. And if memory serves, it's beige for color 1, red for color 2, blue. I thought it was green for color 3. Maybe it's blue.
I don't know. Don't say anything just in case we fail the character.
Okay, yeah, we'll improvise that part later on. So we'll get a picture here, and then sometimes you'll get like a few pictures from some part of the internet somewhere, alongside some references from museums, perhaps. A lot of the times we'll be looking at historical paintings, so you will have these cute little dudes all over the place, and that will serve as the primary reference for creating maybe a helmet similar to this. And so once we've done that, the next step, I'll be showing this stuff in Marmoset too, in Marvelous, but we will be scouring the internet for different patterns. Historical patterns are the best. Sometimes they're difficult to find, so we'll use modern stuff and kind of like try to make them a little bit more historical, and we'll use this as a guide for this magical software over here. So here you can see this is Marvelous Designer, and it's basically a fabric simulation software. In short, a scene will probably start. Wait, if I can hide it. Hide everything. We'll start like this. We'll have a base mesh character, and then we will create a set of patterns here. So it's basically pattern drafting, similar to how you would be like cutting out pieces of cloth in real life, and then you will place them and like on the 3D avatar and stitch them together. So if we pull them apart, you can see that there are lines connecting them. So we draw out these patterns, and then you connect them in the software. And then on a complex garment like this, that same process will repeat it for a couple of times for the different layers of fabric. So in this case, we have an underskirt, we have a coat of chainmail, and then we have an outer layered gambeson, and then sometimes we'll even have a doubled layer gambeson to like add that nice puffiness for it, which I would have loved to show in ZBrush, but again, Murphy's Law,
It's perfect for those icy Spanish summer days.
Yes, exactly. It's perfect for Spanish summer days.
Yes.
We do actually have a small slide here for we did a backup plan in case stuff like this happened. So this is a different garment, but by and large, what we get out from here are panels of fabric. They don't have any thickness to them. They're not actually like connected and merged together in once we put them in ZBrush. So this is what it's going to look like in the beginning. And if why can't I move? There we go. And so if you try and smooth it, it's going to be a bit ugly and triangulated in the beginning. And so this is we went through smoothing. I mean, this is basically like the high poly process, right? That Joakim, other Joakim.
You can turn on the
about.
Wireframe and you can show people. Oh no, wait, we're
not in the software exactly. We're faking it till we're making it. But so for the character art side, the big thing that we do in ZBrush.
Bottom right calendar.
Oh yeah, online drawing. Yeah, get that out of here. No, we're not joining. We're streaming. Damn it. Is that we're basically adding thickness. So you can see once we smooth it now, it's basically an extrusion, but in reverse, so it's going inwards instead of outwards. So you see we get these nice looking seams and clothing panels. And for the most part, that's honestly like as far as we take it in ZBrush. For the character art side, we just want like a little bit of thickness and these seams. The rest should have already kind of been done in Marvelous. So there's very little manual tweaking once it's in there. And once we have the high poly, we do the same thing as Joakim did here for the baking. It's just that we do it with characters instead of assets.
Have a bit of a different setup, right?
Yeah,
when it comes to our low poly Maya setup.
Exactly. The process is pretty much identical. We create the normals, we create the AO, we create the blue color, the ID maps that we later use in Substance Painter to quickly map on materials to different parts of the asset. And so this is one of the one of the parts where we will distinguish ourselves a little bit from the environment art, and that's the fact that we have 2 UV sets. But let's hope.
Look at those beautiful UVs.
Yeah, look at those beautiful UVs.
Especially like the one at the top
nice.
right there, where it's just barely keeping inside.
Yeah, just barely. I practiced a lot of drawing inside the Lines art books as a child. But so when constructing a low poly like this, the things we keep in mind is that we want to match the topology and the edge flow from the base body as much as possible. So basically, what goes into creating a low poly like this is that we will put the high poly or a decimated version, a version of the high poly with a reduced poly count into Maya, and we will remake that into a workable low poly asset. And I usually start by duplicating parts of the actual base meshes body, and then you like push it out a little bit, and then you add all the necessary modifications to turn it into this. And so the edge flow will match the body pretty well, and then we also add topology alongside the seams and the trims.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So you will see that in the final asset here, or you can look at the female version here too. Or no, it actually looked better here. You can see it will have these trims of repeating patterns, and the same for other parts of the body. But let's go through the trims here, and I think that's by and large what goes into, or like what the I guess unique parts about going in, or about how we do characters here. Like everything else is agnostic to working at Paradox, like good topology flow and decent size of the polygons and whatnot. Following that, once we have the low poly and the UVs and everything, let's open up Substance Painter again.
They say
Yeah.
you just got Joakimed.
Yes.
Say that
They would
both
really like you to say
together.
that.
They want me to say
Please.
you
They are
Joakim.
begging. Please.
Yes, you
Please,
With-
please.
you
Caps.
just jot Joakim. I can't scream it louder because it's such
Together, guys.
such an awkward thing to always saying it
But it
together.
would be a nice thing to end it with, since it's almost time.
Let's
You've got to do it now, guys. Ghost
Yeah.
Voice back to tell you you've got to do it now.
we gotta do it now.
We've got to
Yeah.
do it now.
Yeah, let's do
Okay,
it all of us.
should we do a countdown?
Let's do a countdown. Yes.
All right.
All of us, please.
All of us,
All right,
please.
all of us.
Yes.
So,
Who starts?
3,
2,
1.
1.
You just
got
Joakim.
Drop the mic.
Very nice.
Oh my
everyone.
lord,
Very
drop it.
nice. This is Troy, the Ghost Voice, back to congratulate you on an excellent and wonderful art stream. Thank you all so much for joining in. We are out of time, unfortunately, or we could do this all day. As a matter of fact, if you guys are all willing, I'd love to do it again sometime soon.
Yeah, sure. We still have character
Yeah.
art stuff to talk about. So
Well,
there is more content
excellent.
to produce.
we have so much more to talk about. In the meantime, definitely check out all of our videos on YouTube. Tune in next week for a stream on the same bat time, same bat channel, as it were, to see more content from Flavor Pack 2. And make sure you join our Discord for all of our excellent conversations, discussions, and everything community related. Thanks for tuning in, and have a great week, y'all.